Thanks, everybody. So when we talk about the future, I don't believe that the future is something that we necessarily make from completely nothing. I think that it's best built on top of patterns. So I want to ask everybody, I want to start down with Steve and work our way back, since for a profession, you watch patterns. I'd like everyone to talk about maybe one pattern that you've noticed emerge over and over and over within your experiences with co-working. And then if you have sort of a prediction based on how that's going to impact the future, that would be awesome as well.
There's a bunch of patterns that are interesting to us about co-working. The one pattern that's consistent is the role it plays both in terms of community and in terms of connecting people that might otherwise not be connected. And I don't know which space coined the term increased serendipity or accelerated serendipity.
That was a Chris Messina-ism from my first South by Southwest in 2007.
But I think one of the most interesting things that you see across the economy is the more points of connection, the more good things that happen. And that's true in sort of anything, whether it's innovation or any other topic area. When you're looking at it now, we're seeing a big shift overall to more connections, and more connections leading to good things. And when we look at co-working, it provides connections to people that normally wouldn't have connections, and it provides connections between people that normally wouldn't cross in a lot of cases. And to us, that means you will see more innovation coming out of it. You'll see new mixtures of things and remixes of things. And so, as you drive forward and look forward from it, it has a very positive economic effect from our view, because you create new things. And when you create new things, that's what pushes the economy forward.
That's awesome. I'm trying to remember what the exact quote was. Has anybody else read Stephen Johnson's Where Good Ideas Come From? He's got a quote. It's like connectivity favors the earth. Innovation favors the connected mind, or something along those. Yeah.
And
that's Louis Pasteur.
Oh, it is.
That's Chance favors.
But it was.
What's the exact quote? I want to get it right.
Chance favors the prepared mind.
Chance favors the prepared mind.
But yeah, and Stephen actually had the other one, and I think his research is really quite interesting, and his summary of all the research showing that as you connect more people, innovation happens. And a lot of areas in our world still are missing those kinds of connections. Science is just starting to come around to the degree that some of the areas have. And so that's what excites us, is we see that pattern and what it means for both society and also for us as individuals.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so a pattern that we see at Shareable for co-working and sharing innovations in general, is that when a group or an individual starts, and it might be something small, starts sharing or collaborating, usually that leads, a kind of light bulb goes on, and they're like, well, what else could we do? That went really well. How could we could do something bigger, And I feel like that this conference is kind of like that. Like, wow, look at what we got going already. What can we do now? We've got hundreds of co-working spaces. What might be next? Like, this is really exciting. Another pattern that we see is there's kind of like, for makers and for creating is like, this is what makes who we are and makes us feel at home with ourselves and at home in a place, is when we make things with each other, right? We come into our own, and we become a member of a community through creation, through co-creation. So that I think that's really the thing that really excites me about co-working, is because people go there and make things together.
Great, thank you. Jake?
I really like looking at a number of individuals coming together and forming community. We have 80 members at Office Nomads, and they're each these strong, independent people that are excited about what they're doing. And I love watching that exact same pattern play out in the co-working community, as we have all of our strong, independent spaces, and we're very excited about what we're doing, and we want to share, and we want to collaborate, and looking at how those, the similarities between those two, different scales, and watching how they play out has been tremendously exciting. And I look forward to, as as we start kind of applying the lessons that we learn about what is successful in our own spaces, about making people feel at home and comfortable, and removing the barriers for them achieving everything they can in their own personal business. I get excited about how we apply those lessons to the co-working community, of space owners, and how we can do that same thing to each other. I think it's very exciting.
I think the pattern that I've noticed is relief. How many of you have felt relieved because you found coworking? It's okay. Get them up there. It's okay. It's okay to say you felt relieved. But a new member signs up and they kind of come up to me and they say, "How do I join this thing?" They make this motion with their hands, and I said, "Well, you just pay me, and then you're a member." And it's visible, like, I don't know what happens to you when you're at home working, but something gets all bound up in your chest, and then you start co-working and you're relieved. And I know I don't get relief every day because I co-work, so I don't really need it. But as a space owner coming here today, I got relief. Because oh my God, my people, you have the same. We're not unsame, we're same. And so the pattern is relief, and I can't articulate it better than that right now. I'm very hungry.
I think that's crystal clear.
Barbecue.
Relief, not the hunger.
Yeah.
I see hunger right there.
The pattern that I've seen recently that's particularly interesting is bigger and bigger players are becoming more and more interested in co-working. So that's big companies, that's companies who are turning their own offices into shared workspaces, that's companies wanting to create a shared workspace to be near a big company that they work with. You see that a lot in San Francisco, building that Twitter is in. A bunch of startups went in on the first floor just to be close to them, to talk to their developers all the time and come up to their offices. Clout's doing the same thing in San Francisco. Google Ventures puts their startups into one big open floor and lets them all talk to each other. Turnstone, which is here sponsoring, and they're working with a lot of co-working spaces. People clearly see that there's something very, very sticky here, and that's why we're here. And I think, Chris Hoyer last year at South by Southwest at the social media clubhouse, when there was a little co-working panel, said co-working is in its adolescence. And in the last year, and I think in the coming years, it's really moving into maturity. And that really involves thinking of how these bigger players who clearly see some value here, how we bring them in. And we're the people who are building this community, so we have a lot of voice and say in how we do bring them in and make them part of this in a very positive way. So I think that's a really interesting trend for me.
Great, thanks guys.